Keanu Reeves was just trying to catch a flight when a faint, desperate whisper stopped him cold. "Help me! Please help me!" The voice came from an old backpack, abandoned in the airport chaos. Inside, a cryptic note, a faded photo, and a mystery begging to be unraveled. What starts as a curious detour explodes into a heart-pounding chase. Keanu's tangled up with a panicked brother, a missing woman, and two shadowy figures who'll stop at nothing to keep their secrets buried. From a forgotten corner of the terminal to a tense showdown in a dark storage room, Keanu's quick thinking turns him from a passerby into a hero. What he does next? It's the kind of twist that'll leave you stunned. Buckle up. This isn't just a story about kindness, it's about courage, kicking evil square in the teeth. Keanu Reeves was weaving through the airport crowd, his mind locked on the film shoot waiting for him. Dressed in a plain black jacket and a cap pulled low, he blended in, just another guy with a plane to catch. His focus was razor-sharp, mentally running lines, until a faint sound cut through the noise. It wasn't much, just a soft hiss, like air slipping through a crack. But it hit him differently, tugging at something deep. He slowed, scanning the chaos, and zeroed in on a beat-up backpack slumped against a check-in counter. Everyone else rushed by, oblivious. Not him. He stepped closer, curiosity prickling. The sound wasn't random. It was coming from the bag. Kneeling down, he unzipped it, fingers brushing worn fabric. Inside, a tiny recorder buzzed to life, spitting out a shaky whisper. "Help me. Please help me." The voice trembled, fragile, like it was hanging by a thread. Keanu froze. This wasn't some lost item, it was a cry reaching out, raw and real. His gut twisted. A cold jolt shot down his spine. He could have walked away, handed it off, kept his day on track, but that wasn't him. He straightened up, clutching the backpack, eyes darting around. No one cared. People hustled past, heads down, chasing their own lives. The voice looped in his head, weak but insistent, like it was meant for him alone. Keanu wasn't the type to overthink. He acted. Something about this felt wrong, bigger than a misplaced bag. His instincts screamed it wasn't random, and he trusted them. Always had. He slung the pack over his shoulder, decision made. Whatever this was, he wasn't letting it go. That whisper, it wasn't just sound, it carried weight, fear, a story begging to be heard. Keanu's heart kicked up a notch. He didn't know who was on the other end or why they'd left this behind, but he knew one thing: ignoring it wasn't an option. He'd seen too much in life to brush off someone's plea. The film set could wait. This couldn't. He started moving, not toward his gate, but deeper into the mess, driven by a pull he couldn't shake. Keanu's mind raced as he gripped the bag tighter. That voice wasn't a prank or a glitch. It was human, desperate. He'd heard fear before, felt it himself, but this was different. It wasn't his fight, not yet, but it was calling him in. He didn't have answers, didn't know the stakes, but he'd figure it out, step by step. That's how he worked. Quiet, steady, relentless. The airport faded into a blur around him. All that mattered was the whisper, the backpack, and the choice he'd just made. He wasn't just a guy catching a flight anymore. He was in it now, whether he liked it or not. Keanu stood there, the backpack heavy in his hands, that fragile voice still echoing in his ears. "Help me, please help me." It wasn't just a sound anymore, it was a tether, pulling him somewhere he couldn't see yet. He unzipped the bag again, digging past the worn straps. His fingers brushed a small sweater, soft, kid-sized, the kind that holds memories of better days. Then a scrap of paper, edges frayed, with "Flight," KL 472-1430, scrawled in shaky ink. Last, a Polaroid slipped out. A young woman stared back, her eyes deep with a quiet sorrow that hit him like a punch. No name, no clue who she was, just these pieces of someone's life, left behind like a puzzle he had to solve. He glanced at his watch, 45 minutes until his flight. The smart move was to hand this off, let someone else deal with it, but that voice wouldn't let go. It clawed at him, raw and real, like a hand reaching out from the dark. Keanu knew what it was to feel lost, to need someone to care when no one did. He couldn't walk away, not from this. The film set, the script, the deadlines, they faded. This was bigger. He zipped the bag shut, slung it over his shoulder, and made up his mind. He'd dig deeper, even if it cost him. His first stop was the info desk. A young woman stood there. Clara, her name tag read, flashing a tired smile that didn't reach her eyes. Keanu set the backpack down, keeping his voice low. Found this. There's a recorder inside, someone asking for help. Anything on a flight KL 472? Clara's smile faltered as she tapped at her keyboard. That flight's canceled, she said, brow creasing. Technical issue, hours ago. No passenger list I can pull up. She looked at him, then the bag. Hesitant, Keanu slid the recorder across, hitting play. The whisper filled the space between them. Soft, broken, desperate. Clara's face drained of color, her hand froze midair. I saw someone, she stammered, voice barely above a breath. This morning, a woman, she came through here, all jittery, kept looking over her shoulder like she was scared stiff. Didn't say much, just asked about that flight, then bolted. Clara's eyes flicked to a quiet corner of the terminal, past the bustling gates. She headed that way. The waiting area over there is kind of dead this time of day. Keanu nodded, feeling the weight settle deeper. This wasn't just a lost bag anymore. Someone was out there, running, hiding, maybe worse. He thanked Clara, grabbed the bag and started walking. That woman in the photo, those sad eyes, burned in his mind. Was she the one begging for help? Or was it someone else, tied to her somehow? The sweater nagged at him too. Small, innocent, a piece that didn't fit yet. Keanu's chest tightened. He'd lost people before, felt that hollow ache of not doing enough. This time, he wouldn't let it slide. Every step toward that waiting area felt heavier, like he was chasing a ghost he couldn't name. The crowd thinned as he moved, voices fading to a hum. He didn't need to see the signs, he felt the pull, that same instinct that made him stop in the first place. The recorder's plea looped in his head, a heartbeat he couldn't shake. He wasn't a detective, wasn't trained for this, but he didn't need to be. He'd always trusted his gut, and it was screaming now. Something was wrong, bad wrong. The woman Clara saw, the canceled flight, the kid's sweater. It all pointed somewhere dark. Keanu's hands clenched around the straps. He wasn't just looking for answers anymore. He was looking for a life. He thought about that voice, how it trembled, how it broke. Whoever left it was scared out of their mind, clinging to hope someone would hear, and he had. Out of everyone in this mess of a place, it landed with him. Keanu didn't believe in fate, not really, but this felt close. Too close. He'd been the guy who kept his head down, who dodged the spotlight when he could. Now here he was, diving into something that could swallow him whole, but walking away? That wasn't an option. Not when he could still hear her, feel her, reaching out. The waiting area loomed ahead, quieter than the rest, a pocket of stillness in the storm. Keanu slowed, scanning it. Empty chairs, a flickering light, nothing obvious. But he wasn't here to guess. He was here to find her, whoever she was. The Polaroid weighed on him, those eyes pleading silently. He didn't know her story, didn't know the danger, but he knew pain when he saw it. And he'd be damned if he let it slip through his fingers. He took a breath, steadying himself. This was just the start. He could feel it. Whatever came next, he was ready. Or at least, he had to be. Keanu stepped into the waiting area Clara had pointed him toward, the stillness jarring after the airport's chaos. A lone figure sat hunched in a chair, a middle-aged guy, tense as a coiled spring, clutching an old flip phone. His eyes, sharp and guarded, flicked up as Keanu approached. The name Victor slipped out later, but right then, he was just a stranger with a stare that could cut glass. Keanu didn't flinch. He'd seen worse. He set the backpack down, keeping his voice steady. "This yours? Or hers?" He pulled out the Polaroid, holding it up. The woman's sad eyes locked between them. Victor's lips twitched into a thin, bitter smile. "You don't want to mess with this, famous guy," he rasped, voice like gravel. "Some things are better left alone." Keanu didn't budge. He'd heard brush-offs before, but this one had an edge, fear masquerading as a warning. He tapped the recorder, letting that shaky, "help me," spill out. Victor's smirk vanished. He shot to his feet, hands trembling, eyes wide like he'd seen a ghost. Keanu caught it, the crack in the guy's armor. You know her, he pressed, softer now but firm. Who is she? Victor's breath hitched. He looked away, then back like he was wrestling something inside. Elena, he muttered, barely audible. My sister. She was here this morning, running from them. His voice broke on the last word, heavy with dread. Keanu's chest tightened. The pieces clicked. Her face in the photo, the kid's sweater, the plea. Who's them? He asked, stepping closer. Victor shook his head, frantic. I don't know, she wouldn't say. Just left that damn bag and disappeared. His eyes darted to the backpack, then to Keanu, raw panic seeping through. It's all she gave me. Her last shot. Keanu felt it then, a surge of something fierce, protective. Elena wasn't just a name now, she was a person, scared, alone, counting on someone to hear her. He'd been that someone once, waiting for a hand that never came. Not this time. He opened his mouth to push Victor harder, but a shadow shifted in the distance. Two men, dark suits, hard faces, cut through the quiet, heading straight for them. Victor's face went white. They're here, he yelled, voice cracking. Run! Keanu didn't hesitate. He grabbed Victor's arm, yanking him toward a side hallway, heart slamming against his ribs. They bolted, footsteps pounding behind them. Keanu's mind raced. Who were these guys? What did they want with Elena? The hallway stretched narrow and dim, a maze of turns. He didn't know where it led, didn't care. He just needed distance, time to think. Victor stumbled, gasping, but Keanu kept him moving, his grip iron tight. Keep going, he growled, low and urgent. The men's steps echoed closer, fast, deliberate, hunters on a scent. Keanu's pulse thundered, but he stayed calm. Panic wouldn't help. Action would. They ducked into a corner, catching their breath. Victor was a mess, sweat beading, eyes wild. They'll kill us, he wheezed. They got her. I know it. Keanu crouched, peering back. The men were near, scanning, closing in. He turned to Victor, voice steady despite the chaos. What's she running from? Tell me. Now. Victor swallowed hard, words tumbling out. She said something about evidence, something big. She was going to blow it wide open. Then she vanished. Keanu's jaw clenched. Evidence. That's why the bag mattered. That's why they were here. He didn't have time to process it. A shadow loomed. One of the men rounded the corner, spotting them. Keanu acted fast, shoving Victor behind him. The guy lunged, fists up, but Keanu sidestepped. Years of stunt training kicking in. He wasn't a fighter. Not really, but he knew how to move. He grabbed a loose metal rod from the wall, a janitor's tool maybe, and swung it low, catching the guy's knee. The man grunted, staggering, but the second one was already on them. Bigger, meaner. Keanu ducked a punch, adrenaline surging. He wasn't here to win a brawl. He just needed an out. Get help! He barked at Victor, shoving him toward an exit. Victor hesitated, then ran, disappearing down the hall. Keanu faced the two alone now, chest heaving. The bigger guy smirked, cracking his knuckles. Wrong place, wrong time, pal, he snarled. Keanu didn't answer. He didn't need to. He'd been the underdog before, outnumbered, outgunned, and still walked away. This wasn't about ego. It was about Elena, about that voice begging him not to quit. The first guy recovered, lunging again. Keanu swung the rod, connecting with his shoulder, but the second grabbed his arm, twisting hard. Pain flared, but he gritted his teeth, kicking out. The guy stumbled, loosening his grip. Keanu broke free, bolting deeper into the hallway. He wasn't running away. He was buying time, drawing them off Victor's trail. His mind spun. Elena's plea, her brother's fear, it all pointed to something dark, something he'd stumbled into blind, but he wasn't backing down, not now. He darted around a corner, spotting a storage room door cracked open. He slipped inside, slamming it shut, heart pounding. The space was tight. Boxes, mops, shadows. He pressed against the wall, listening. Footsteps slowed outside. Voices, muttering. They were close. Too close. Keanu's breath steadied, but his thoughts didn't. He'd lost people before, let moments slip he couldn't get back. That sweater, those eyes, that voice, they haunted him. He wasn't just fighting for answers now. He was fighting for her, whoever she was. The door rattled. Keanu gripped the rod tighter, ready. He didn't know what evidence Elena had, didn't know the full stakes, but he felt the weight of it. her life, maybe more, hanging on this. He'd always believed in doing what's right, no matter how small. This wasn't small. This was a line he couldn't uncross. The knob turned and his muscles tensed. Whatever came through that door, he'd face it, head on, like always, because that's who he was. And because she needed him to be. Keanu pressed his back against the storage room wall, the cold metal biting through his jacket. Victor crouched beside him, panting, eyes darting like a trapped animal. The footsteps outside grew louder, slow, deliberate, closing in. Keanu's grip tightened on the rod, but his mind stayed clear. He'd sent Victor running for help, bought them a sliver of time, but it wouldn't last. He turned to the man, voice low and steady. "What's the truth, Victor? What's she got that's worth this?" Victor's face twisted, guilt and fear spilling out. "A USB," he choked. "She's got proof, names, dates, a whole damn trafficking ring, cross-border stuff. She was gonna hand it to the cops before that flight." The words hit Keanu like a freight train. Trafficking. That's what Elena was running from. What she'd begged for help to stop. The kid's sweater flashed in his mind, a gut-wrenching clue now. His stomach churned, but his resolve hardened. This wasn't just a lost woman anymore. It was a fight against something evil, something that chewed up lives and spit them out. He locked eyes with Victor. "She's still out there." Victor nodded, shaky. "I don't know if she's alive, man. They got her. I felt it." Keanu's jaw clenched. He didn't know either, but he wasn't leaving her to that fate. Not if he could help it. "We're finding her," he said, firm, no room for doubt. Victor blinked, stunned. "You're crazy. You don't even know her." Keanu didn't flinch. "I heard her. That's enough." He'd felt that kind of desperation before, the kind that clings to hope when everything's gone dark. He wasn't walking away, not from her, not from this. Victor hesitated, then nodded, a flicker of trust breaking through his panic. Keanu stood, rod in hand, ready to move. He didn't have a plan, just a fire in his chest that wouldn't quit. The door burst open before he could act. The two men stormed in, dark suits wrinkled from the chase, faces hard with intent. Keanu moved fast, instinct taking over. He swung the rod low, catching the first guy's shin. The man cursed, stumbling, but the second was on him in a flash, grabbing his arm and twisting. Pain shot through Keanu's shoulder, sharp and hot, but he didn't buckle. He'd taken hits before, on set, in life, and kept going. He twisted back, slamming his elbow into the guy's gut. The grip loosened, just enough. Keanu broke free, shoving Victor toward the door. "Go! Now! Get the cops!" Victor bolted, disappearing into the hall. Keanu faced the two alone, breath ragged but eyes steady. The first guy was back up, limping but pissed, while the second cracked his neck, smirking. "Big mistake, hero," he growled, lunging. Keanu ducked, swinging the rod again. Metal clanged against a raised arm. The guy grunted but kept coming. Keanu wasn't a brawler, but he was quick, stubborn, and he had something they didn't. A reason. He dodged a fist, then another, buying seconds, keeping them off balance. His heart pounded, not from fear, but from the weight of what he was fighting for. Then he heard it, a faint whimper, barely there, cutting through the chaos. His head snapped toward the sound. A stack of crates loomed in the corner, shadowed, easy to miss. The men froze, hearing it too, and that's when Keanu knew. She was here, alive. He didn't think, just acted. He charged the bigger guy, shoulder first, ramming him into a shelf. Boxes crashed, giving him a split-second edge. He spun toward the crates, adrenaline screaming through him. The whimper came again, weak, pleading. "Hold on," he muttered, more to himself than her. He reached the crates, shoving one aside. There she was, Elena, curled inside a wooden box, wrists bound, face pale and streaked with tears. Her eyes, those same sad eyes from the photo, met his, wide with terror and a flicker of hope. She was real now, not just a voice or a picture, but a person hanging on by a thread. Keanu's chest cracked open, relief, rage, all of it hitting at once. "I've got you," he said, voice rough but sure. He dropped the rod, hands shaking as he tore at the ropes. They were tight, biting into her skin, but he worked fast, gentle despite the urgency. Behind him, the fight wasn't over. The second guy roared, charging. Keanu shielded Elena, bracing for the hit. But it didn't come. Shouts erupted outside, then boots pounding. "Drop it! Hands up!" Cops. Victor had made it. The man froze, caught mid-step, as airport security swarmed in, guns drawn. The first guy was already down, pinned by an officer. Keanu didn't look back. He focused on Elena, freeing her wrists, her shallow breaths filling the silence between them. She grabbed his arm, fingers weak but desperate, like he was her lifeline. "You're okay," he said, soft, steady, even as his own pulse raced. She nodded, barely, tears spilling fresh. "The USB, it's in my pocket," she whispered, voice hoarse. Keanu reached for it, a tiny drive, small enough to miss, big enough to ruin lives. He handed it to a cop rushing over, his eyes never leaving her. She was shaking, broken, but alive. That's what mattered. He'd heard her, found her, pulled her out of the dark. It wasn't pretty, wasn't clean, but it was enough. The cops hauled the men out, cuffs clicking, voices barking orders. Keanu stayed with Elena, kneeling beside her as she caught her breath. He didn't say much, didn't need to. She looked at him, really looked, and something passed between them. Gratitude, understanding, a shared weight. He'd been a stranger an hour ago, just a guy with a flight to catch. Now he was here, hands dirty, heart full, because he'd answered her call. He'd always believed one choice could change everything. This was proof. The storage room buzzed with chaos as the cops took over. The two men in dark suits were shoved against the wall, wrists cuffed, their snarls fading under barked orders. Elena sat trembling, the USB small but seismic now in an officer's gloved hand. It was done. The evidence she'd risked everything for was safe, headed to people who could use it to tear down the nightmare she'd escaped. Keanu stayed close, his shadow steady beside her. She turned, exhaustion carving lines into her face, and threw her arms around him. Her grip was weak but fierce, a lifeline clinging to the one who'd pulled her out. "Thank you," she whispered, voice cracking through tears. Keanu didn't say much, just held her back, feeling the weight of her relief soak into him. Victor stumbled in, breathless, flanked by an officer. His eyes locked on Elena, then Keanu, brimming with gratitude and a guilt that cut deep. "I should have done more," he muttered, voice thick. "You saved her when I couldn't." Keanu shook his head, soft but firm. "She saved herself. I just heard her." Victor's lip quivered, but he nodded, stepping forward to kneel by his sister. They didn't speak. Didn't need to. The bond was there, frayed but unbroken, and Keanu stepped back, giving them space. He'd done his part. Elena was safe, the USB was out, and the bad guys were done. That's what he'd fought for. Word spread fast. By the time Keanu slipped out of the storage room, the terminal was humming. Passengers craned their necks, whispering his name. "That's Keanu Reeves. He stopped some trafficking thing." A janitor clapped, grinning wide. "Man's a damn hero." Phones were out, snapping pics, voices buzzing with awe. The guy who dodged cameras, who kept his life low-key, was suddenly the center of it all. They didn't know the half of it. The fear in that recorder, the fists he'd dodged, the split-second choice to run toward her voice. They saw a star. He felt like a guy who'd just done what he had to. Keanu didn't stop for the chatter. He waved off a reporter shoving a mic his way. "No comment, just glad she's okay," and kept moving. The crowd parted, eyes trailing him, but he didn't look back. Elena was with Victor, the cops had the rest, and his flight, late but still boarding, was calling. He grabbed his bag, the one he'd come with, not the one that had changed everything, and headed to the gate. The adrenaline was fading, leaving a quiet ache in its wake. He'd won, but it didn't feel like victory, just relief, heavy and real. On the plane, he sank into his seat, the hum of engines drowning out the world. He stared out the window, the ground slipping away, lights blurring into streaks. His hands still felt her ropes, his ears still rang with her plea. He'd been ready to miss this flight, to throw his schedule out the window for a stranger, and he had. Keanu leaned back, closing his eyes for a beat. Life had a way of tossing curveballs. Tests you didn't see coming. This one had hit hard, dragged him into a fight he hadn't signed up for. But he'd stepped up. That's what stuck with him, not the fists or the chase, but the choice to listen when no one else did. He thought about Elena's eyes, scared, then grateful, Victor's regret, the kid's sweater that never leave his mind. It wasn't just about saving her. It was about what she'd stood for, what she'd carried. One voice, one tiny drive, and it could crack open a whole damn mess of evil. Keanu's chest tightened, not with pride, but with something deeper. He'd lost people before, let moments slip he couldn't fix. This time he'd caught it, held it, made it count. That mattered more than any script he'd ever read. The plane leveled off, the cabin dimming. He didn't need the applause, didn't want the headlines. The real win was quiet, knowing she'd breathe easier tonight, knowing he'd been there when it counted. He'd always believed kindness could shift things, even just a little. Today it had shifted everything. A backpack, a whisper, and suddenly he was part of something bigger than himself. He didn't feel like a hero, just a guy who'd said yes to the right fight. Keanu's gaze drifted back to the window, the sky endless outside. He'd found something out there, something he hadn't looked for. Courage wasn't loud, it was steady, stubborn, showing up when it's hard. He'd carry this. Elena's tears, Victor's nod, the weight of that USB, like a reminder. Life doesn't warn you when it's about to test you, but it damn sure shows you who you are when it does. He'd answered her call, and that was enough, more than enough. The story ended there, with him in that seat, eyes thoughtful, a man who'd walked through fire and come out softer, not harder. It started with a sound, a choice, and it ended with a truth. One act, one moment, could rewrite someone's fate, even his own. And as the plane cut through the night, Keanu knew he'd never hear a whisper the same way again. And that's the end of today's story. What did you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and don't forget to follow for more exciting stories coming your way. See you in the next one.